The United States faces a critical vulnerability in its supply chain for rare earth elements REEs and the high-performance permanent magnets derived from them, which are essential for modern defense, technology, and green energy sectors. Despite possessing domestic rare earth ore deposits and significant financial backing from Washington, the nation is almost entirely dependent on China, its primary geopolitical competitor. This dependency is not due to a lack of raw materials, but stems from a near-total absence of domestic midstream processing and refining capabilities, a complex and environmentally challenging stage of the supply chain that China has dominated for decades through strategic industrial policy, technological development, and lower production costs. Efforts to reshore this industry are underway, turbocharged by geopolitical tensions and substantial government investment. However, these initiatives face formidable obstacles. The technological gap in refining is significant, with China holding key expertise and patents. The environmental and regulatory hurdles in the US mean that permitting and building new processing facilities is a slow and costly endeavor, taking an estimated 7 to 10 years. Furthermore, US companies struggle to compete with China's state-subsidized, low-cost production, raising questions about the long-term economic viability of a domestic industry without sustained government support, like price floors. Ultimately, while the US is taking steps to address its dependency, the timeline for establishing a fully integrated, competitive, and sustainable mine-to-magnet supply chain is likely a decade or more, a pace that may not align with the urgency of current geopolitical realities. They are the vitamins of modern technology, the secret sauce in everything from your iPhone to the guidance system of a Tomahawk missile. They're called rare earth elements, and they are at the center of a high-stakes geopolitical showdown between the United States and China. For years, America has been in a precarious position, almost completely dependent on its main rival for these critical materials. But now, fueled by trade wars and national security fears, Washington is pouring money into reviving its domestic industry. We're hearing stories of a turbocharged American mining sector, a rush to break free from China's grip. But is it that simple? Can the US just mine its way to self-sufficiency? Or is this a classic case of throwing money at a problem without understanding the real bottleneck? Today, we're doing a reality check on America's rare earth reckoning. First, let's get the scale of the problem. When we talk about China's dominance, it's not just about mining. In 2024, China mined about 70% of the world's rare earths. That's a lot, but it's not the whole story. The real chokehold is in the middle of the supply chain. China processes and refines nearly 90% of all rare earths into the purified metals needed for manufacturing. And when it comes to the most valuable end product, high-strength permanent magnets, China makes over 90% of them. Here's the absurdity of the situation. The United States is the world's second largest miner of rare earths, thanks to this place, the Mountain Pass mine in California. But for years, where did most of its raw, unprocessed ore go? It was shipped across the Pacific to China. Think about that. The US was digging strategic minerals out of its own soil, only to send them to its chief competitor to be turned into finished goods, which US companies then had to buy back. It's like growing your own wheat, sending it to your rival to be milled into flour and baked into bread, and then paying a premium for the loaf. So the obvious solution is to just mine more and stop sending it to China, right? The US certainly has the resources. Beyond California, there are significant deposits in Texas and Wyoming. Researchers have even found a potential treasure trove of rare earths hidden in, of all things, coal ash waste, potentially 11 million tons of it. And there's no shortage of money. The Pentagon has committed over $439 million to build a domestic supply chain. The government has even created price guarantees for companies like MP Materials, promising to pay nearly double the market rate to ensure they stay afloat. This is the turbocharged part of the story. It's what gets investors excited. But as some sharp-eyed observers have pointed out online, money and raw dirt don't automatically create a supply chain. Mining is the easy part. The real challenge, the multi-billion-dollar, decade-long headache, is what comes next. This is the heart of the matter, refining and separation. This isn't just crushing rocks. It's a fiendishly complex chemical process to separate 17 elements that are chemically almost identical. China spent decades and billions of dollars perfecting this, especially a technique called solvent extraction. They now hold the patents, the institutional knowledge, and the massive world-beating scale. The US offshored this entire industry decades ago, and with it went the engineers, the chemists, and the intellectual property. In 2023, China hammered this point home by banning the export of its rare earth processing technology, essentially pulling up the drawbridge behind them. Then there's the environmental angle. Let's be blunt, this process can be incredibly dirty. It uses powerful acids and can generate toxic and even radioactive waste, like thorium and uranium. China built its dominance in an era of what can charitably be called flexible environmental standards. The cleanup bill for some of its old sites is in the billions. In the US, with its stricter regulations, this is a major hurdle. Just getting the necessary permits to build a refining plant can take 7 to 10 years, and that's before a single shovel hits the ground. So let's say a US company navigates the technological and environmental maze. Can it actually compete? Chinese production is cheap, a result of state subsidies, lower labor costs, and a massive integrated industrial ecosystem. To produce 1 kilogram of rare earth oxide, the most efficient Chinese operations spend around $11. To be profitable, many potential Western mines need prices of $75 per kilogram or higher. This is why the US government has stepped in with price floors. The DOD guaranteed MP materials a price of $110 per kilogram for key rare earths, a price that was nearly double the Chinese set market price at the time of the deal. This is a crucial lifeline, but it begs the question, is the US creating a sustainable, competitive industry, or is it creating a permanent, taxpayer-subsidized one that can't survive in the open market? We've seen this movie before. Remember Northvolt? The European great hope for EV batteries had billions in orders, but couldn't scale up and went bankrupt. Ambition and government cash are no guarantee of success. And this brings us to the final critical factor, time. Even with unlimited money and political will, you can't escape the clock. The average time to develop a new mine in the US is painfully long. Add 7 to 10 years for a processing plant permit. All told, experts believe it will take at least a decade, maybe 15 years, to build a meaningful domestic supply chain from scratch. The Pentagon has set an ambitious goal of a fully domestic mine-to-magnet supply chain by 2027. Given the realities on the ground, that timeline seems optimistic. Meanwhile, geopolitics doesn't wait. The export restrictions in April 2025 were a clear warning shot from Beijing. It showed how quickly China can squeeze the supply chain and cause chaos in US industries. The US needs these materials now, not in 2035. So, is the American effort to reshore rare earths doomed? Not necessarily. But it's a far more complex challenge than just digging bigger holes. The real battle isn't in the ground, it's in the laboratories, the factories, and the policy rooms. If it weren't for the Trump administration's tariff war, perhaps the US wouldn't be experiencing rare earth supply issues, and there wouldn't be any need for us to discuss this topic. What are your thoughts on this? Please leave a comment below. Thank you for watching.